Sherman and I thought it would be really cool to get the client's perspective. So all of you in this room, everyone here dreams of the perfect client who has the interest in pushing a project as far as they could possibly, within means, push it. And today I'm really happy to say that we're going to hear the client's perspective. What does the homeowner have to say about living through a deep energy retrofit, and not just any deep energy retrofit, but a deep energy retrofit that actually won an international prize, a national prize. So here we're going to hear from Andrew Hellibust and Maria Rietstra. Andrew is, he's no slouch. He's an engineer who does chemical engineering, graduate from University of Toronto, went to Princeton, and has worked in the water field since 1994. He provides engineering services to the public and is an active collaborator with technical suppliers and consultants working in sustainable design. His consulting firm, Rivercord Engineering, does engineering design in water and wastewater treatment and reuse systems. And Maria Rietstra is a music teacher. This is I've shopped you guys online, man. I know everything about you guys. Again, the bios were slim, so my apologies if I'm butchering everything. So Maria is a music teacher with TDSP. Is that okay? And together, Andrew and Maria will give us the homeowner experience. And without delay, I hand you the baton of control. Here, all the control over. Thank you.
So we should stand over here, right?
Mm-hmm. So being an opera singer, trained opera singer, I didn't know very much about building at all. Although, to my parents' credit, I did know something about Passive House. I'd heard about Passive House before, and my mother was very interested in building design, mostly interior design, but she was also a musician, but it was sort of her hobby, and I used to piggyback on that hobby. She'd leave the magazines in the bathroom. So something I was not unfamiliar with. Andrew, of course, has been interested in dreaming about houses since I think he was a little kid. So sort of a different perspective. We lived in East York, typical East York bungalow, 2 bedrooms, and like most people who want to build or need to move, we needed another bedroom, and we needed a functioning kitchen because ours was not really functioning. We had no oven. And there were problems with mold. Definitely insulation was a thing we talked about a lot. That would be a good thing to have. I did a lot of exploring in East York about other renovation projects, especially bungalows that had been turned into 2 stories. And I didn't quite find anything that sort of fit what we needed. Because we're both musicians as well, I needed a room that could hold a grand piano but not be the entire room of grand piano, and so we had a little more specific needs. We decided we would build, and then that started this conversation about what that could look like, and we both got very excited about the things that we had dreamed about when we were younger. And I have to say, from my perspective, a lot of the decisions seemed logical. Like, well, if you can build this way, why wouldn't you build this way? It seems dumb not to. And so it didn't really occur to me that we were doing anything special until much later, when people would come to me and say, why did you do that? Like, my family would say, that cost so much money, why did you do that? And other people would look at us and say, how did it even occur to you to do that? Right? Because most people are only worried about, the kind of kitchen that they're going to put in or what kind of countertop they're going to buy. They don't really think about how the building is constructed or airtightness, heaven forbid. So I've learned a ton by doing this project, and it's been great as a client to, I can't emphasize enough how important it is to have clear communication from all people that we're working with, and Greening Homes is like exemplary. Daily updates, like daily communication with us about what they've done, and making sure that we have enough heads-up time about the next decision that has to be made, and how much it's going to cost. And and just being frank and clear has been really valuable. Sorry, I'll speak this way more. And Andrew's going to speak more. I'm sorry,
Oh, yeah.
Andrew will speak louder so you'll hear everything.
How do I advance the slide here? Thanks. So this is a drawing of our old bungalow, and you see hundreds of these in Toronto. It's a double wide brick wall. At one point we had Green Saver come in and seal it up a bit and put cellulose in the insulation, which actually might have led to some mold issues as it became less leaky. There we go. And that's the final result. But I will give you a little information at the end about our electrical use, but I think a lot of this is unusually non-technical. This was a 3-year journey for us, about 2 years in design and permitting. And in my professional world, had been exposed to a little bit about how I thought it should go, and so we had a charrette at the beginning, and we invited people. Sustainable Edge, it was hosted by Open Architects, and Keith Benjamin is here from Open Architects, thank you. And we had Ed Marion there, and also Greg LeBay and Sherman showed up. They were very kind and generous with their time. So thinking back at that point, I think we found it difficult to get real cost of what a retrofit will cost. So in that way, we're either naive or poorly informed. And also, we were very interested in all the things that we could do. And I think the charrette is useful for sort of getting that off your chest, all the things that you could do with your house, and then over time you get a little more realistic. Greg Allen was there. He's certainly known for a lot of way out there ideas. So we had a slideshow of all the things you could do. And then I think gradually at that time was probably 2012, so we finished building in 2015. We didn't really know what this would cost. The architect suggested it might be $175 a square foot over certain parts of the building that you're renovating. We didn't quite realize how much of the house we would renovate. I mean, we would put a second story on, but we didn't realize we would totally redo the basement foundation because we had to fix the foundations. They were not centered properly, so that involved digging out and all sorts of things. And then we visited a retrofit in Rosedale that Greening Homes had done, the Highland Avenue, and so that seemed really expensive, but actually when you look at it in a square foot cost, we started learning what a custom home could be. So that was more like $400 a square foot. And then through this process, I think what's hard to find in a client is, I think, a client who values design and a client who doesn't call things expensive all the time, but considers them what is valuable. You know, what is value for money. And when you hire an engineer, that engineer is designing it and also doing so-called value engineering, like, okay, pay me some more fees and I'll find some savings for you. That's what, is the ideal. So I'm just talking about budget because although Marie and I were very supportive, you could have the best clients in the world. You should, as a builder and designer, also determine whether that client is going to see this project through. Now, I would say if we knew how expensive the project was, I'm not sure we would have started it. It's sort of like having a baby, maybe. You don't know how bad it's going to be, right? But go ahead. But no, so it was sort of a learning experience in the beginning that it was probably not $175 a square foot, and in the end, it was approaching $400 a square foot. When you add in, when I look at Greening Homes, they were important designers, although that's not how they build themselves. Stephen Gray really was central in making this project run smoothly. He's like a master's in building science and a civil engineer, and we got along very well because I also had a similar level of enthusiasm, you could say stubbornness, about pursuing some of this stuff. And I know he's been told by Chris, his boss, to take it easy on some clients, who aren't maybe up to speed. But if you break out the sort of design worth of greening homes and add it to the architectural fee and sustainable edge and everything, and Al Davies, who put in our integrated mechanical system, I'm guessing it was over $100,000 in just paying people to think about this project. But you can see it was a good result, right? We did get the award for all of Canada. So in the end, we were happy, but I have to say the budget is a very stressful thing between spouses and trying to explain everything. And so as a designer builder, you can help the spouses, work it out by updating your budget and explaining why this is valuable, and even saying, this is a realistic market price. And in fact, what you're paying in Toronto is just the same as most other houses, actually. So what we paid for this, which is, for everything is probably over $900,000. Actually, if we were to buy another house in downtown Toronto, I guess that's in line. So it was a big learning experience for us financially and a source of lots of stress and everything. So back to, these were basically all the people at our design charrettes originally. And I'm very happy to see they're all promoting the project on their websites, and I really hope that they're going to reproduce, not literally what we've done, but I like to think the biggest greenhouse gas impact we have achieved is when you have 100 more of these houses. I do believe we were early adopters, considering the amount of time it took to source everything and discuss everything. And we did avoid pursuing any point system like LEED or Passive House, partly because I was very confident in our designers and I really wanted them to just go for it. But also as these point systems mature and the market of materials matures, like you simply could not find as many windows even 2 years ago as you can now. Everything's coming together, and it's a bit of a maturity in the whole infrastructure. This was just taken today, so sorry. You see, our poor architect, I think we, at one point we said, oh, it's a very modest project, we only want a few things. A bedroom, an extra bedroom, room for a grand piano. But, we went through many iterations. Even the best client is going to go through 3 iterations before finally deciding. And we were on a ravine property, so Conservation Authority also had to be involved. We had a few minor variances. When we did our first fit study, we didn't actually realize that our coverage was only based on the tableland. Like, even though our property was 300 feet into the valley, it was only the tableland that determined our coverage. So even one of our minor variances that we were 5% over our coverage. And even at that, we simply went straight up on our 800 square foot footprint. And most of around us in East York go back about 10 feet when they do the second story build up. So, but at one point we were talking about maybe cantilevering here and building over the garage and stuff. But in fact, we could not actually do that in terms of zoning. Well, instead of building over our garage, we did have a very nice cedar rail patio, and we have a vegetable box up there. You can see we went for, we also, although we like sort of a modern design, in the end we sort of went for a somewhat traditional vernacular, you could say. So these overhangs are calculated to shade the windows at least in the summer solstice. And that whole design actually was sketched out by Greg Allen of Sustainable Edge. We were asking for something that would support solar panels that would shade the windows. And I'm not sure where we are in time, but I want to say, there are all sorts of distractions in a building process for the owners. Granite countertops, what you could do with this and that. I have to give a lot of credit to Maria for occasionally saying, oh, we really are focusing on a good envelope, an extra bedroom, a grand piano. We don't have the grand piano, by the way. We have the space for it, I suppose. So, instead of getting distracted by all these 10 different things, and the magazines are just coming at you every day of what you could be doing, we really work with greening homes to, take the time you need to use thousands of dollars of tape and anything you want. We didn't know how airtight it would be actually, but we just said to the designers, just do your stuff. Now I get ahead, that's the garage deck. And here's a bit of the back deck here. A greening home staff is putting tung oil on the cedar. And we have a big deck over the ravine property, it's quite nice, apart from the Don Valley Parkway. Greening Homes paid to have this staged, very nice photographs and everything, and you can see that in some magazines. And there's the Canada Green Building House Council winning. Now there's a lot of technical stuff, and I stole these slides from Greening Homes. So we have basically maybe 50% at least more than the code asks for in terms of insulation. We're very close to the property line on one side, so I couldn't quite imagine doing all the insulation Passive House was asking for, but it is very well sealed in terms of air. And some solar work on the shading. The solar panels are postponed a bit, but I'm glad we've gone through a year of experience with the house, so we know maybe what we need. Now back to the wall section, there was a point early on where I realized that no one was actually designing the walls. I mean, Sustainable Edge could, but really they were saying, oh, give me the AutoCAD drawings, we'll do an energy model, and then we'll tell you how much you need to heat it. The architect, I mean, they were very supportive, but I didn't see them designing exactly what insulation was. So we discussed who could do this, and in the end we hired Greg Allen of Sustainable Edge to do some sketches. So he came up with this wall which had about 11 things in it. And then Stephen Gray took this and he simplified it to maybe 5 or 7 things. So it was a really good result of one team person doing this and then the other person refining it. So now this integrated mechanical system, it was a great result and Sustainable Edge did a great job, but it was also a source of stress. The exact design of it didn't really come in until about halfway through the project, so we didn't know, and we were even worried, would we have to do natural gas, which would have been a lot cheaper, right? When you're worried about the budget, you say, oh, should we really only do natural gas furnace? And Sustainable Edge was patient, but had to remind me a few times to not prejudge what their final design was going to be, which turned out to be nice, very good. It's a reversible heat pump, which can, and midway through the process when we had the basement dug out, I said, let's just put some tubes hand dug into the soil, and we'll just use that as the preheat or something for the incoming air. Then Sustainable Edge said, okay, you put these tubes in, let's just see how it works during the first winter. But we can always put more tubes into the front yard. So that's what we did. This heat pump can dump heat or pull heat out of that soil. It's meant to be integrated with solar panels. You can actually, thermal panels, you can get heat in the winter, but that heat pump could pump 40 degrees or hotter water to the panels at night during the summer to reject heat as well. So I think this really, gee whiz, this mechanical system is probably what's, along with the package of the excellent air tightness, everything, probably what gave us that award. But it's complicated as well, so then the guy who put this in, Al Davies, he's basically almost redesigning this to make sure he understands it. So instead of his normal 25% labor cost on materials, he probably had 50% labor. So, we have a system now that's 3 times what a natural gas forced air would be. And then it's custom controls and everything. So fortunately, I enjoy doing this. But when I was away this summer and Maria was handling it, we discovered it was turning itself off all the time, and then we had to figure out why that was. It turns out, we think, that although this small amount of soil in the winter was managing to get us through this record-long winter, in the winter these tubes are cold and attract moisture, whereas in the summer the tubes are hot and drive moisture away. So in the summer we've got dry soil, which has less heat capacity and probably less heat transfer capability. So it was in fact overheating in the summer and turning itself off. So eventually we used one of our little controllers to turn itself off. No, we turned it off before it turned itself off. So the bottom line, though, it's very complicated. Maria says several times, what owners would ever tolerate such a system? But we enjoy it. So here, I'll get to our electricity use. We had, over 30 days where it never got above 0 last winter. And our ground temperature got around down to 1 degree Celsius. And I'm not sure how close our sensor was to our tubing, but basically we were probably freezing the soil, and that's okay, I think, for geothermal to some extent. But our total bills for the year are about $2,000 with all the, the electricity cost is only like 40% of your total bill, it seems. But our house is completely electrically heated, no fossil fuel. We were worried enough at one point that we actually had a natural gas meter put in next to our house because we didn't quite know how this would all fall out. But we have this gas meter sitting there which will never be connected to our house. So we have about 800 square foot to a floor, and our basement is finished. We have radiant ceiling tubing in the ground and second floor in order to cool. So we put chilled water through the ceiling, not cold enough to condense, but so in the winter, we're using about 47 kilowatt hours a day, but that's all uses, that's cooking. So I know Stephen Gray gave a talk at the US, at the Passive House Conference. I think we're supposed to be below 30 to count as Passive House. So throughout the whole year, we're using about 28 kilowatt hours every day. The actual cost of electricity about $2,000 a year, less than $200 a month for all uses. So we cook with electricity. Now, just to compare it to our old house, we spend about $1,200 on fuel oil alone, and then we still dried our clothes with some electricity and stuff, everything else. So I think I once worked it out. We're probably using 40% of our heating of our old house. Our old house wasn't that bad, actually. It was a very compact, rectangular, simple-shaped house. So I'm sure we've probably taken about 15 minutes, and we'll be around after to answer questions. Thank you.